In the heart of ancient Egypt, over 3,500 years ago, something extraordinary happened that changed history forever. A woman became pharaoh. Not a queen standing beside a king. Not a regent temporarily holding power. But a full pharaoh wearing the double crown, holding the crook and flail, and ruling the most powerful civilization on earth. Her name was Hatshepsut. And here's the shocking part. To rule Egypt, she had to pretend to be a man. She wore men's clothing. She strapped on a false ceremonial beard. She ordered artists to depict her with a male body. She even changed her name's grammatical gender from feminine to masculine in royal inscriptions. For 22 years, she ruled as one of Egypt's most successful pharaohs, bringing peace, prosperity, and incredible architectural achievements. Then something terrible happened. After her death, someone systematically tried to erase her from history. Her name was chiseled off monuments. Her statues were smashed. Her images were destroyed. For over 3,000 years, Hatshepsut was almost completely forgotten, until archaeologists in the 1800s uncovered her story and revealed one of the most fascinating tales in ancient history. This is the true story of the female pharaoh who ruled as a man. Hatshepsut was born around 1503 BC as the daughter of Pharaoh Thutmose I and his great royal wife Ahmose. As a princess, she received an exceptional education unusual for women, even royal women. She learned to read and write hieroglyphics. She studied mathematics, history, and religious texts. She was trained in the complex protocols of Egyptian court life. When she was around 12 years old, she married her half-brother Thutmose II, following the royal tradition of keeping bloodlines pure. This was completely normal in ancient Egypt's royal family. When her father died, her husband became Pharaoh Thutmose II, and Hatshepsut became queen. She bore him a daughter named Neferur. But Thutmose II was apparently a weak ruler and possibly in poor health. After ruling for only about 3 years, he died young. The succession should have passed to his son by a minor wife, a boy also named Thutmose, who would become Thutmose III. But there was a major problem. The boy was only 2 years old, far too young to rule. Someone needed to serve as regent until he came of age. That person was Hatshepsut. As the boy's stepmother and the daughter of a pharaoh, she was the logical choice. For the first few years, Hatshepsut did exactly what was expected. She ruled in the young pharaoh's name, managing the government while he was educated and trained. But then, around year 7 of Thutmose III's reign, something unprecedented happened. Hatshepsut declared herself pharaoh. How did a woman become pharaoh in a society where that role was exclusively male? Hatshepsut was brilliant, calculating, and politically savvy. First, she built a power base among the priesthood and nobility. She appointed loyal supporters to key positions. Her chief architect, Senenmut, became one of the most powerful men in Egypt and possibly her lover, though we have no definite proof. She also claimed divine right to rule. She commissioned stories carved on temple walls claiming that the god Amunias-Ra had come to her mother disguised as her father and conceived Hatshepsut as a divine child destined to rule. She declared that her earthly father Thutmose I had publicly named her as his successor before his death, though there's no independent evidence this actually happened. But most importantly, she solved the visual problem. Egyptian art, religion, and language had no framework for a female pharaoh. The word pharaoh itself was grammatically masculine. All the ceremonial regalia, crowns, and clothing were designed for men. Royal ideology depicted the pharaoh as the living embodiment of the god Horus, a male deity. So Hatshepsut made a radical decision. She would present herself as male in all official capacities. In public ceremonies, she wore the traditional pharaoh's kilt and exposed her ceremonial false beard. In temple reliefs and statues, artists depicted her with a male body, broad shoulders, and no breasts. Sometimes she was shown with both masculine and feminine features in a confusing blend. Her pronouns and inscriptions shifted between masculine and feminine, sometimes even within the same text. She took on the full 5-part royal name of a pharaoh, using masculine grammatical forms. She became His Majesty Hatshepsut, and it worked. Hatshepsut ruled Egypt successfully for approximately 22 years, from around 1479 to 1458 BC. But unlike many pharaohs who are remembered for military conquests, Hatshepsut is remembered for peace and prosperity. She focused on trade, building, and economic expansion rather than warfare. Her greatest achievement was re-establishing trade networks that had been disrupted during the Hyksos occupation. She organized a famous trading expedition to the land of Punt, located somewhere along the Red Sea coast, possibly modern-day Somalia or Yemen. This expedition brought back incredible treasures: gold, ebony, ivory, leopard skins, live myrrh trees, and exotic animals. The myrrh trees were planted in Egypt to produce incense for temple rituals, a revolutionary idea. Hatshepsut had this expedition documented in detailed reliefs on her mortuary temple, showing ships being loaded, exotic goods being transported, and even the Queen of Punt, depicted as extremely obese. Hatshepsut was also one of ancient Egypt's greatest builders. Her masterpiece is the mortuary temple at Deir, el-Bahari, one of the most beautiful structures in all of Egypt. Built into the cliffs of the Theban mountains, it features 3 massive terraces connected by ramps, with colonnaded porticos decorated with painted reliefs. The temple's elegant, modern design still impresses architects today. She also built or restored temples at Karnak, including the Red Chapel and sanctuaries dedicated to Ammonius. She erected massive obelisks, including 2 at Karnak, that were among the tallest ever raised in Egypt. During her reign, Egypt was stable, wealthy, and at peace. The economy flourished. Art and architecture reached new heights. She proved that a woman could be as effective a pharaoh as any man. But then Hatshepsut disappeared from history. We don't know exactly when or how she died. She was probably in her late 40s or early 50s. There's no record of her burial, no documentation of her death. She simply vanished from the historical record around 1458 BC. Thutmose III, her stepson, finally assumed sole power after decades of waiting. For years, historians believed Thutmose III hated Hatshepsut for stealing his throne and immediately launched a campaign to erase her memory. And someone definitely did try to erase her. Her name was chiseled out of king lists. Her images were defaced or destroyed. Her statues were smashed and buried. Her cartouches were replaced with those of Thutmose I, Thutmose II, or Thutmose III. But here's the interesting part. This destruction didn't happen immediately after her death. Modern archaeological analysis shows the erasure campaign began about 20 years later, late in Thutmose III's reign. Why wait? Some historians now believe it wasn't personal revenge. Instead, it was an attempt to restore Ma'at, the Egyptian concept of cosmic order. A female pharaoh was an anomaly, a disruption of the natural order. By erasing Hatshepsut, Thutmose III was trying to make history show an unbroken line of male kings from father to son, as it should be. Hatshepsut's body wasn't discovered until 2007, when archaeologists identified a mummy in tomb KV60 as likely being hers, confirmed through DNA testing with her grandmother's mummy. The mummy shows she was obese, diabetic, and probably died of bone cancer. She suffered from dental abscesses and may have been accidentally poisoned by medicinal skin ointment containing toxic substances. Despite the attempts to erase her, Hatshepsut's legacy survived. Today she is recognized as one of ancient Egypt's greatest pharaohs. Her mortuary temple still stands after 3,500 years. Her obelisks still tower over Karnak. Her story has been recovered and celebrated. She proved that gender doesn't determine leadership ability. She ruled Egypt during one of its most peaceful and prosperous periods. She expanded trade, commissioned magnificent architecture, and maintained stability for over 2 decades. Modern scholars now count her among Egypt's most effective rulers, male or female. Her story reminds us that history is written by the victors and the patriarchs, but the truth eventually emerges. Hatshepsut didn't just rule as a man. She ruled as a great pharaoh. And 3,500 years later, we finally remember her name.